Hello everyone, welcome to Taylor's Tech Talks, and today we're going to be talking WordPress. My name is Taylor Arndt, and I am a freelance WordPress developer, accessibility consultant, and trainer. I've been in the industry for 3 years now, and I have helped clients from nonprofits to government agencies with accessibility compliance in making websites. We are doing a series called WordPress Wednesdays, and we are going to be building a complete site from start to finish using WordPress. This site will be the home of our Clubhouse Club, WP for All, where we have rooms talking about WordPress, answering questions on a weekly basis. To best follow along with this series, I would recommend you do the following things. If you are blind and you're using a screen reader, WordPress tends to work better using NVDA, non-visual desktop access. If you're not familiar with this software, I will link it in the description. But this is a lot better than using JAWS because the block editor, which is what allows you to edit WordPress content, works a lot better with NVDA, and it's just a smoother experience. This is a free screen reader, so there's no additional cost to you, but there may be a little bit of a learning curve, but trust me, it's worth it. Also, I am using Google Chrome for this series. Today we're talking hosting. So last time, we just bought the domain wpforall.club. Recall that our domain is our address on the web, and today we're going to establish our property, meaning our stuff and our assets, where they will stay. We are going to be talking about providers. We're going to talk about how to connect your domain to your hosting, and a whole bunch more. So I would stick around because we're going to have a lot of fun talking hosting. Types of hosting. There are a few different types of hosting that you can choose from, and the type of hosting will depend on your needs. We're going to be going through a few different types today, and we're going to kind of explain the differences between each and the pros and cons and what is perfect for each other's situation. So because we have a lot of different websites being built for this series, obviously I'm building this WP for All, but you guys are probably building something else. So I want to kind of generalize this advice, and so that is kind of what we're going to be first talking about. And our first type of hosting is managed WordPress. Now this is something where basically the hosting provider will allow you to have WordPress. It will most likely be already configured for you. And all you have to do is just set up your information. You don't have to really install WordPress. It'll already be there. And basically the difference here is that they will manage and optimize your website to run WordPress. Why would you do managed? Well, it makes it a lot easier to do hosting, and it will allow you to have little knowledge to get started. You won't have to worry about installation. However, the con is that it is pretty expensive, and that could be price inhibiting for some people. The next kind of hosting is shared. Shared is almost like, let's say you're at an apartment complex and you have neighbors, on all sides, and basically you're sharing the resources of the server with other people, sometimes hundreds of other people. The pro to this is that it's very, very cheap. Shared hosting starts at, I don't know, like $1, whatever, if you do Hostinger, to depending on how much, it can go pretty high, but shared hosting is very cheap. And the benefit is that you can still have a website up for very little money. However, if you start to have a lot more traffic, this is where it can become an issue, and you may want to look at something which we're going to talk about in a second. Shared hosting is great for most situations, but if you start to have a lot of traffic or you have a big website with many parts, you may want to look at our next option. And speaking of our next option, we have VPS, or Virtual Private Server. This is something where basically it will allow you to have a website, but you can have something called SSH. And what will happen is you can control your website through this interface it would normally be like a Linux server. And if this all sounds gibberish to you, in a sense, you have basically all the power. So you would have kind of root access to this. And there are some companies that do this. There is DigitalOcean, Linode, Cloudways, and I believe I heard about one yesterday called Vultr. And so basically you would set up an account and then you kind of go through a wizard and then you would basically be able to access the server. This is great if you have a lot of traffic and you need a very fast server for you to run your WordPress. And this is making it a lot easier now because these VPS providers have what is called one-click WordPress installs, in a sense where you can basically install WordPress with a VPS in one click and it will set it up already for you. If you're on DigitalOcean or Linode, there's something called SpinUp WP, but there's a whole different types of variations. If you're on Cloudways, which basically is a VPS provider, but it takes all the technical jargon out of the equation, they will already have you set up with WordPress. And so basically they will kind of manage the server and they will manage the backend, but you still get the benefit of having a VPS. So you can always look into that option. For my blind users out there, I want to note that I have not been able to try Cloudways, so I'm not sure how accessible the panel is. So just a note out there. Okay. We've talked kind of about the different types of hosting, but we need to figure out what would be best for our situation. So I think we're going to be doing shared because it's very clear that we're not going to have a crap ton of traffic where we need to, have a big VPS server, and it's the best way to get started. Now, we need to figure out, we've already figured out what kind of hosting we want, but we need to figure out where do we get it from? Well, I have a few different options for y'all. Yours truly provides hosting through iAccessibility. Me and Michael Dowies have partnered up. If you haven't heard of iAccessibility, you should really check it out. We have a variety of different services from app development to web hosting and also some podcasts. Main show is called the IA Cast, and I am a guest on there, so if you like hearing me, you can also hear me there. But we offer web hosting starting at $5 a month, which is a shared setup and is very accessible. And if you want more details, please contact me and I can get you set up. If you would like to host with somebody else, we also have DreamHost, which is very great. They also have managed WordPress. So if you're interested in something like that, you can go with DreamHost. And if you are a nonprofit, I believe that DreamHost offers a discount, but don't quote me on this. But I think for today, since I already own iAccessibility, I'm just going to use iAccessibility's hosting as an example. But the directions should be very similar if you are using a different host. So, all right, we've decided on iAccessibility, and so your next step would be to get your hosting. So you'd have to purchase it and get everything set up. And so I'm going to assume that you are going to purchase hosting. And again, if you need help, please contact us or go into the WP for All Clubhouse Club room and get help that way. So I'm going to assume that y'all have hosting. And if you don't worry. You can watch the rest of this video and get hosting. But what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our domain and hosting can talk to each other. So recall that your domain is registered at a domain registrar. In our case, we used Hover. But the problem is that Hover doesn't know where our hosting is. And so we have to connect the two. And so there's a couple ways that we may do this. There's either one, using a name servers where we put in the server's name servers. So for example, ns1.iaccessibility.net or ns2.iaccessibility.net. Or you can do what's called an A record, where you put the server's IP address that you want to connect to. And so basically what that means is that, let's say that you have a lot of email and you don't really want to mess with the whole deal with the name servers, you can actually just throw an A record together and you can have iAccessibility or DreamHost or whoever you choose. They will manage the web hosting portion, but you can have your third-party provider manage the email. And so that's kind of a way to keep things separated there. You can also change the name servers so that iAccessibility or DreamHost or whoever you choose will manage everything. And what I would generally say, if you're starting a new website, I would recommend just changing name servers. But if you have an existing site with a lot of complexities, then just do an A record. It'll make it a lot easier. So I'm going to log into my Hover. Now, a couple notes here is that, let me see if I want to make sure I don't forget anything here. A couple notes here is that these instructions will vary based on your host. So that's just something to note, is that if you're using a different host, you will need to look up their actual name servers. But we're going to use iAccessibility today. So I'm going to go into my Hover and we are going to get started configuring our name servers to work with our domain. I'm logged into Hover, and what I did is I clicked on my domain. So I clicked on the domain that I bought in case WP for all. And so I'm going to look for a heading that says name servers. And then what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to hit edit so that I can edit the name servers to be the ones for your specific host. If you are using iAccessibility, you will put in ns1.iaccessibility.net. So iAccessibility, so the letter I, accessibility.net. If you're using DreamHost, I will have to exactly look up the exact servers you will need. And if you're using something else, you will need to try to Google and just type in like name of host here, name servers. And then from there, what will happen is it will propagate. So basically what that means is that it will go all around the world and say, okay, update with, all the internet service providers or ISPs. And then it could take up to 24 to 48 hours for this to work. And that way it will show up whenever you try to go to your domain. If it doesn't work, what it will say is, this is an awesome idea coming soon if you were on Hover. And so then you know that you're still waiting for it to propagate. All right, so I have actually done this ahead of time so that I wouldn't have to try to wait and do this during the video. So I'm going to show you what happens when you are done propagating name servers and when everything is ready to go. WP.club.
Index of /.
So you'll get this little index page. Once you see this index page here, y'all, you'll know that you're ready to go and you're ready for next week's video where we're going to start installing WordPress. If you do not see that, then what I would do is I would refresh, and I would probably wait 24 to 48 hours to make sure you're ready. And then after this point, you can actually install WordPress. If you like today's video, you can do a couple things to stay up to date with our latest videos and tutorials. You can visit the Taylor's Tech Talks website for the home of all of the Taylor's Tech Talks podcasts, YouTube, and blog posts with interactive transcripts for each video and podcast. In addition, if you would like to support this channel, I have a couple ways of doing so. You can support me using affiliate links in the description. Disclaimer, I do get a kickback, but the money goes directly to support the channel and podcast. In addition, you may become a member at taylorstechtalks.com for just $1 a month, and that will get you access to the community Discord server. $3 a month will get you access to Honorable Mention and the Discord, and $5 a month will get you early access to all videos. Speaking of sponsors and members, I want to thank our sponsors, who are our great members at taylorstechtalks.com. And if you would like to become one of those, you may sign up and join the community. I hope you like this tutorial, and be sure to check back every week for new videos as they become added, and check Taylor's Tech Talks frequently. And if you would like to hear this in a podcast form, you may visit Taylor's Tech Talks on Apple, Spotify, Google, and wherever you like to get your podcasts. I hope you guys have a great day. I will talk to you soon.